And then we can't talk about the wins without talking about the challenges and lessons. So let's talk about what we have learned the hard way as business owners, maybe some things that didn't pan out and what we learned from them.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am the one that kind of manages our finances. So so the first things that pop into mind are things that were like financially like kind of sucks drains on our finances. Yeah.
Hey there. My name's Ashley Church.
And I'm Erin West.
We were once newly promoted crime scene and latent print supervisors on mutual struggle buses as we both simultaneously tried to navigate through the challenges within our forensic units.
Now we run a business where we create tools and resources that we wish we had had to make these transitions easier. We like to talk about the experiences we've had in the forensic field, the good, the bad, and the ugly, in the hopes to create awareness around these issues and move the needle forward to create positive change in the forensic community.
So if you're a forensic professional, regardless of your years of experience, who's not afraid to dive into real, raw, and sometimes uncomfortable topics, you're in the right place.
This is the Forensics Unfiltered podcast.
Hey guys, today is a very special day because we're celebrating 5 amazing years of Gap Science. You heard that right. Over the past 5 years, we've grown, learned, and connected with so many incredible forensic professionals, and we couldn't have done it without you, our amazing listeners and supporters. In this first part of our special 2-episode celebration, we'll be taking you behind the scenes of Gap Science, from how we started to the milestones we're proud of, and yes, even the flops that taught us valuable lessons. Let's dive into part 1 of our anniversary celebration.
Welcome back to another very special episode of our Forensics Unfiltered podcast. As always, we're very excited to have you guys here. But today we are actually doing a special podcast recording where we are celebrating our 5th birthday, which is really, really crazy. The 5th birthday of Gap Science. So Ashley's put together some fun kind of like, let's go down memory lane.
Because that's how I am.
Yes. Of 5 years since Gap Science came into existence. And of course, we have some of our Gap Science OGs here with us in the live chat box. So thank you guys for joining us. We very much love and appreciate you guys. Some of you guys have been with us since the very beginning. So it's awesome to see you guys on here in the live chat with us. So Ashley, what are we starting with tonight?
Yeah, so here's just a quick rundown of the things that we're going to cover. So first, we'll start with our origin story, why we created Gap Science, the growth that we've experienced over the years, a lot of behind the scenes stuff that maybe you guys aren't aware of, some of the challenges and missteps that we've had in business, celebrating our successes, because we have had a couple of those, and some like fun little personal twists throughout this episode. But before we get into that, we definitely want to make sure and I tried to make this really thorough, a very thorough list, but I'm sure I'm still forgetting some people. Our brains are kind of scatterbrained right now, but also 5 years is a long length of time. But before we get into anything crazy, we definitely want to make sure that we acknowledge and shout out our supporters, collaborators, people in the forensic community that have contributed to our Gap Science journey. So first people we want to shout out is our instructors / employees, which is crazy that we can even say employees. But we have Amanda that just joined us this year. She's doing our social media management. We also have instructors Brian Macy, Elise. We have 2 Jens, Jen Helms, Jennifer Mead, Joanna, Ken, Larry, Lindsay, Meredith, Kessler, Rebecca, Renee, Rob. We also have a lot of sponsors throughout this 5-year journey as well. Our biggest sponsor and supporter has always been Justice Tracks. We're very grateful to David and his team. We've also had Blue Star Forensics and Faro sponsor some of the summits in the past. And our collaborators, you saw a couple of them pop up this year with e-courses, and we have quite a few more collaborations in the works that are going to be introduced to you in 2025. But that includes Dr. Heidi Sievers from Sievers Forensics, Kat Pope from Forensics Unfound, Jennifer Peterson from J13 Forensics, Virtue Safe, just to name a few. And also everyone, that's too long of a list. We could stay here for literally the full hour talking about everyone who's contributed to our virtual events, our webinars, our podcast episodes. If you have been a presenter at our summits or symposiums, if you've been a speaker at one of the webinars, if you've been a guest on our podcast, we certainly appreciate you. And of course, the audience. So we would be nowhere without you guys supporting us in so many different ways, not just our classes, but also online, sharing Gap Science with your friends and your coworkers. We certainly appreciate everyone.
Yes, we absolutely love you guys. Thank you so much for all of your support.
So, origin story. I know we have a couple little like snapshots of it on our website, and we've definitely talked about moments of it on social media from time to time. But let's talk about first the inspiration behind Gap Science, why we started it in the first.
Oh my gosh, so crazy. So I think for me, I'm sure like our stories are slightly different, but we were both supervisors, and we were sent, thankfully, our department sent us to a lot of leadership training, which is great. But what we learned pretty quickly was that a lot of the leadership training that was available was kind of trash. And so some of the stuff that we were going to was not made for civilians. And we know there's a lot of sworn forensic people out there that are probably getting a lot of beneficial stuff from those classes, but we were not getting a lot of stuff that was very helpful, and specifically not getting a lot of stuff for forensics at all. And so we went to a lot of things, some classes, we sat there the whole time and got nothing. Sometimes we got like a few nuggets here and there. Sometimes we were like appalled by what was being taught. And so Ashley and I were very much like, let's put a class together. So we did that. We put a class together. Back then, we offered that course through TriTech, and we went out to our first class. It was very popular. The class was full. And then I don't think you or I ever really had the idea of really like turning it into a company. But I will say from my side, my brother, for me, was very much like, why don't you just do your own thing? And we were kind of like, I mean, can we? I don't think we can. Like, I don't really know. And he was like, you're crazy if you don't. And that kind of, for me, that was kind of the nudge that I needed to be like, all right, well, let's just try and see what happens, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And he gave us that nudge before we even taught our first class. So we were like in the process of making it in tandem. So like all this is going on. I was going through a really rough time personally, and I dove hard into personal development. So I was reading personal development books. I was listening to personal development podcasts. And Rachel Hollis was one of the ones that I was listening to quite often. And she was blowing up. She was so big. Everyone was talking about her as she started doing her own conferences. And I was like, amazing. I want to go. Like wherever she is, I need some of that like positive energy. So she had a business conference in, was it South Carolina? Was it Charleston?
I don't remember, honestly.
I think it was Charleston.
Let me see.
I have the book.
It was Charleston. Here it is.
Yeah.
This was the conference in 2019. Rise Business.
I still have mine too. So
if you ever wonder where we got the ideas for our manuals, do you see?
It's
if
very
you've been to any of our classes.
Yeah. So we were creating this course, and TriTech was kind enough to be like, on board with us producing this course that no one's ever seen before, forensic supervision. So at that time, I was like, Erin, do you want to go to this business conference with me? I don't even know how that conversation got started or what, but you obliged and you went to the Rachel Hollis business conference with me. And what a hell of a time. It was very, very memorable. So we drove all the way up, a couple states away. So we lived in Florida. We drove all the way up and we booked our hotel through a third-party app. Not a third-party app, but like a third-party site. And it wasn't even like that crazy. Was it like Priceline? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. And there were so many people, like we were in line ready to get our packet and stuff like that and register for the conference. And so many people were like, oh, my hotel's gone. Like I have no place to stay. And we're like, that's not going to happen to us. Like, you know, and they're like, I don't know, you might want to check your reservation. We're like, we've got reservations. Like it's right here. It's on our, you know, on our phones or whatever. And we got there and they indeed did not have a room for us. And so we were either going to sleep in my van or we were going to sleep in a
very dodgy hotel.
Yes. It's not even a hotel. It's an extended stay place. Like, yeah. And we chose that. I think in retrospect, we probably would have chosen the van at this point because there was like, I'm pretty sure our bed sheets, like we were just like sleeping like this because we're like, we can't, it's so gross.
We definitely were. There was blood like, in the bathroom.
Yeah, there's blood stains in the bathroom. Like clearly probably from a needle, right? So like someone's doing drugs in here. There was like a used towel, like when we got in
hanging
there.
on the back of the door. Yeah. Like cleaned the room.
It was awful.
It was fine.
It was fine. But the conference was amazing. And like Erin said, Mike, her brother, is the one that nudged us to do the teaching on our own later. But what we started with was the forensic pocket guide. Mm-hmm. And at that moment, we had applied for a business, like,
we kind of finalized everything at that conference. Like yeah. We figured out our name. We figured out like what we wanted to do. We wrote goals, which still to this day, can we share some of our original goals?
Yeah.
So she had you write down like business goals, you know, and this still cracks me up to this day. She was like, dream big, like really put yourself out there. Like think about, you know, what you, if craziest thing ever. And Ashley was like, I want a new van.
Like a hooked up van, okay? Like a brand new one with the sunroof.
The minivan, yeah. Yes. That was her big stretch goal, was a new minivan. So
still is. Yeah. Still on, it's on my vision board actually.
I love it. I love it. So yeah, we even though the hotel was very traumatic, we really figured out all of the things at that conference, and then we came back like ready to go. And that was pretty much when we dove into getting everything started.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the initial hurdles and how we overcame them, because I feel like we always have hurdles.
Yeah, for sure. I think the initial hurdles were learning everything, literally everything. Yeah. Like you think, oh, you know, like you can go get a business license and do whatever. And that's really easy to do actually, you know, like you pay under $50 and like, boom, you're an LLC. For us, it was like learning how to make a website, learning how to market yourself, learning all the advertisement stuff. Like there were so many software programs and things we got that first year. Like we didn't even have things now. Like you think about Canva, we didn't even have Canva. Like initially we didn't have a lot of the systems that we have now. We didn't have MailerLite for emails. We had a shabby ass website, you know, like we had all these things and we learned how to do every single one of those things by ourselves. And I think there was a lot of fear in the beginning about like, you know, just like putting yourself out there and can we even learn all this? Can we even do all this? now we're just straight Delulu, you know, like now something new comes our way and we're like, this is fine. We'll figure it out, you know, which I think we've developed over years of figuring it out. You know, now we know, like, we'll learn it, we'll YouTube it, we'll figure it out, we'll find someone who can teach us whatever. But in the beginning, it was a little stressful as far as like everything was brand new and everything had to be learned and built from scratch.
Yeah, I remember like from that initial course, we had like 3 or 4 people maybe that wanted to host their own course, which is incredible. And so we had to learn like, okay, we need a website, we need forums for them to be able to submit their registrations. How are we going to collect payment? Just like the basics. And that was, you know, it was a lot to learn.
I even remember like departments, like when we were brand new, like a department would reach out and be like, please send your W-9 so we can send payment. And we would be like, oh God, what's that? We'd be like, hold on, let me Google it, you know?
Yeah.
Let me Google it real quick. We got to figure it out. Or like people will email you and be like, can you connect me with your IT department? Or can you forward this to your finance department? And we're like, sure, it's just us, you know?
Yeah.
So there were a lot of those kinds of things in the beginning for sure.
And still, like, I mean, we both really love technology, anything to make like our lives easier and more automated, especially for you guys. Like, we're on board with testing stuff out, but that comes with a lot of hours on YouTube, hours with customer service. Like,
yeah.
But there, like Erin said, I think we're just straight to Lulu now. We're like, coming up with new ideas doesn't scare us anymore. Like now it's just like, how are we going to find the time for everything?
Yeah. Now we're just out of time. So, and then I would say, besides all those initial hurdles, we had a lot of success very quickly, and then COVID hit. And so just like we were ramping up very quickly, and then just like everybody else, we had to pivot what we were doing immediately. And that was where we started launching more virtual options like a lot of companies did. That was kind of where Ashley's idea for the summits and stuff like that came from, because we really couldn't do anything in person for a while. So not only had we just learned how to do like this one piece of everything, but then we had to immediately like adjust and had to figure out like, how do we offer all this in-person stuff in a virtual format so people can still get what they need. So that was a whole nother learning curve for us, getting an e-learning platform and learning to do webinars and summits and all of that.
Definitely. Do you feel like there's a pivotal moment that shaped our business?
Oh my gosh. A pivotal moment that shaped our business. Oh my gosh. I feel like our business has been shaped by like 800 pivotal moments. You know?
I know, right?
Like, I really can't put my finger on any one like big major thing. But I think you and I, like, we have joked about it so many times that like she is the yin to my yang. Like, she's the opposite piece of like all the things that I lack. She has like all the creative, like beautiful things that it's just not my gift. But there's been so many times throughout the course of this business where I think about like, if I was alone, I wouldn't be where I am now, because you pushed me to do things that make me uncomfortable. And I think I push you to do things that make you uncomfortable.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. There's so much growth still to be had. But yeah, definitely. I wouldn't have even thought to start my own business if it wasn't for Erin. You know, she already did like her own side business with Mary Kay and stuff like that. She's like, we totally got this. I was like,
Yeah. For me, I don't know if you have something pivotal in mind, but I think there's a million different little things that could have held us back, or we could have decided not to try it, or we could have been too afraid to try it, or we could have, you know, let people's critiques keep us from moving forward with our different things and whatever that is. I think there's a lot of places along the way we could have stopped where we decided to push forward, and that grew us to what we are now. So
Yeah. There's not like one thing. I'm just proud that, and I think it also shapes our business that we talk about uncomfortable things. And we've done that since the very, very first class. So if you've ever taken our forensic supervision class, one of our hallmark things at the very end of the course is self-care and staff care. And that was definitely something I pushed Erin into to do.
Oh my gosh,
That was
no.
very uncomfortable.
It's so wildly uncomfortable for me. I am
But
not
since then, like, look how many people join us, like in the summits, on the podcast and stuff like that. Look how many other organizations and, IAI and stuff like that are now like embracing those hard to talk about topics too. I think that sets us apart. I think that is what makes us a little bit more unique, because there's a ton of different forensic training companies out there, but we've always been willing to talk about those things and taboo topics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that for our leadership courses and our FTO courses, like one of the things that I have always really enjoyed about those classes is that when we're teaching and when our instructors are teaching, they're being open and honest. A lot of times you'll go to training and it's so like prim and proper and polished. And you're like, hey, like my shit's on fire. Like, is anyone else's shit on fire? Is it just me? You know? And so, and you go to those classes and sometimes you're like, okay, I guess it's just me. Like just my shit's on fire, you know? So we really like to, you know, in those classes, have people be like, okay, it's not just me. Like everybody here has a dumpster fire of their own. And these instructors are legitimately sharing their experiences of like, these are the fires that I walked into. This is how I fixed them, resolved them, whatever. These are contacts that you can reach out to help fix yours. And I feel like people just feel more heard and more connected to other people when they realize that they're not alone. That's a lot of what we hear about the summits is like people come to the summits and they're like, the thing I took away is I realized that everybody's in the same boat that I am. Like I thought I was out here on an island by myself, struggling along. And now I realize that everybody's having those struggles. And it's nice to have a community that you can go to for that. So.
And that's why the dumpster fire collection of our merch is so popular.
So true. So true.
I do think it's going to be like a staple on the website. I don't think that design's ever going to go away.
Yeah. That applies to everybody, not just forensics, you know? So
yeah, for sure. But like you mentioned, not just the fact that everyone's shit's on fire, but the way we approach teaching, and there are some personality styles that really don't like it, and I understand now, but we do a lot of interaction. So like where Erin said you would go to trainings before and be like, oh, is it just me? Just my shit's on fire. And that's usually because like there's not a whole lot of discussions happening in class. It's just like a teacher teaching at you. You know, maybe you go and hang out with someone at lunch, but other than that, you're not really like talking about the real stuff that's going on in your forensic unit. And what we really like to do in our classes, even in a virtual format, is we go there and we have other people talk about their shit too. And I think it's important, you know, we're not just like airing out dirty laundry, but we have to learn that we're not alone and also learn from each other's mistakes so we can get better. And you can't get better if you don't even acknowledge that there are these issues that are going on.
Yeah, for sure.
So with that in mind, what do you think like our biggest achievements have been, or are there any achievements that you find surprising or unexpected?
My gosh. I didn't read these questions beforehand, so these really are coming on the fly for me here. Let me think. So I know for me, I would say two that really pop out to me were ones that you really had to push because I was like, what are we doing with our lives? One was the summit. Like Ashley is very much like on the forefront of like what the new technology is. And so she was like, we need to have a summit. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, you know? So not only did she have to explain the entire summit to me, and then the concept of offering it for free, I was like, oh my God, what, like, as a business, what do you mean we're going to offer it for free? So, and I'm so excited that she convinced me to do that. I think the summits are incredible. They are so fun. The content is so good, and you guys get exposed to people from all over the country, which is so cool. And we see so many of you guys coming back year after year for the summits. So I think the summit was a massive undertaking. Like it was yet another thing we didn't know how to do. So we had to learn all of that from scratch. I mean, we've got it down to a science at this point, but back then in the beginning, we were like, fingers crossed that, you know, things didn't blow up because we were, you know, winging it with the best of them. So I would say the summit. And then the other one that was another one you had to convince me about is, and I'm so glad that we did it, is the vault, like the membership. Yeah. Again, she was the one that was like, we should have a membership. And I was like, that is crazy. Like we're going to offer what for what for what? And I'm really excited that we did. I think it's an incredible resource for an incredible price that you just can't find in our field at all. And people need that so badly right now. They need those resources. Like our training budgets are getting cut left and right. So that was something that I think still, because it's something that a lot of companies don't offer, and it's not something that you see a lot in our field, I think people are still like, what is this thing, you know?
For sure. Oh yeah.
But I would say for me, those are two. I don't know how you feel about those, but those are two big ones for me.
I am damn proud of our summits. They're nowhere near perfect, but we had to learn so much and push through so much. Even now, even when we have it down to a science, we're still like pushing ourselves through and learning, always learning. You know, we incorporated a new community to it this year. We were freaking crazy and decided to do 2 of those this year. And one of them was not all recorded sessions. It was live too, which has a whole different component to it. So that is a massive one. The Vault we launched this year as well. It's still, I feel like it's taking shape, but that's something I am super proud of. And I think, like you said, I don't know how else the forensic community is going to survive and get the training they need with the current state of things right now and people's budgets and stuff like that. I mean, so many people are paying for their own training. So the fact that we can, offer something like that at such an affordable price, like, I'm really proud of us. And then as far as like an unexpected win was definitely this year with the merch. And
oh yeah.
That
the merch is so fun.
Yeah. It's just a creative outlet. And we honestly, like, I shared it in a social media post yesterday, like, or was it today? I don't know. We weren't Swifties. Like, we saw the Eras tour pop up, and Aaron's like, I think we should go. I was like, I will go. And then we like went down this whole damn rabbit hole and became raving fans. And that was just like a creative outlet. I wasn't even sure.
No.
I know we like the designs, but like, I don't really know if there's any other Swifties in forensics. And wow. Wow.
I think even if you aren't a Swiftie, the designs are really cute. Like, I'm sure people have bought them not even realizing that they're Taylor Swift themed, but we must shout out to Taylor Swift tonight. Obviously, those of you listening to this not live will be hearing this long after the Eras tour is over, but tonight is officially the last night of the Eras tour. I have considered staying out till 4 a.m. to watch.
That's exactly what I had on in the background when I was working last night.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to now. Like, I'm so invested. So I will most likely be staying up. But yeah, and we didn't plan that. it just happened like to be a good Sunday for us to come on and record the podcast. But, double whammy for this last Eras Tour concert over in Canada.
No.
So, and then we can't talk about the wins without talking about the challenges and lessons. So let's talk about what we have learned the hard way as business owners, maybe some things that didn't pan out and what we learned from them.
Oh my gosh. Well, I am the one that kind of manages our finances. So so the first things that pop into mind are things that were like financially like kind of sucks drains on our finances. Yeah. So two things that popped to mind immediately. One is we had a lot of agencies that were hosting, but then they weren't getting the classes to be filled. And we weren't really sure if it was because like there wasn't a lot of advertisement or people didn't know ahead of time or whatever it was. And so we decided to book hotels and plan the year out in advance. So we booked hotels like across the country and put the dates out well in advance. And we were like, well, if people know, a year, 9 months, a year in advance, all those classes will be full. That was not the case. and we still had to pay for those hotels. So that was a lesson learned the hard way. And then another one that I would say comes to mind that we're probably going to adjust for this year too is last year we really tested out going to a lot of conferences. If you guys go to conferences, if you're aware, conferences often do not pay the instructors to be there. So the instructors are paying their flights, their hotel. A lot of conferences make the instructors still pay to attend the conference, even though they're teaching. So if they're teaching a class, they may still have to pay $400, $500, $600 to attend the conference, even though they're one of the instructors. And so I think we went to 9 conferences this year. A few of those conferences did pay for some portions of things like a hotel room or things like that. But the vast majority, we paid flights, hotels, car, food, travel, for us and our instructors all across the country this past year. And so I would say for us, that's probably something that we're going to pull back on, and maybe stick to just a few core conferences instead of going out all over the place. So those are kind of two that popped to my brain.
Yeah, our very first conference experience too was definitely, I would consider that a bust, or it didn't pan out the way we thought it was going to.
Yeah.
And it really opened our eyes on like how expensive it is. We decided to be a vendor and be in the vendor hall for that conference. And that's when we launched the Forensic Pocket Guide, and we're like, oh, there's going to be so many people that sign up for this, because at that point it was paid. It was a paid thing, and we've changed it to be free. But, thousands of dollars, and we weren't even like paying flights or anything. It was like, we drove there. We didn't have anything shipped. So we had everything in our cars. And it was still like $7,000 or $8,000. And we definitely didn't get return on investment for that. And I'm not saying like being there and having that exposure isn't like something that's also valuable too. It's not just the money. The good thing is we learned from that, right? So we changed our approach to conferences where we're getting a little bit scrappier. Like this past conference, that it was just kind of like a snowball thing. And at first it wasn't intentional. And then we're like, let's just ride this wave and see what happens. But that's when we relaunched the challenge coins. And so instead of being a vendor, and a lot of our products are teaching or like courses and stuff like that, what better way to advertise how we teach than to go and teach things? So we opt to, teach classes, teach workshops. And then we have people come and, to us and to our Gap Science meetup and stuff like that. So we definitely have our own twists, like not necessarily doing the same thing that vendors are doing in the vendor hall. We have our own twist on how we market our business. based off of that bust from the first one.
Yeah. So those are
I also
definitely-
think that the virtual seats in our in-person courses were like, give or take, it wasn't like a complete bust. It was an idea that we were trying to incorporate because people still weren't allowed to travel for COVID. I don't know if it was like the best thing. It was just something that we tried.
Yeah, we basically just ended up converting those virtual seats to the full virtual academy and just separated out from the in-person courses entirely. So, and I know even I taught one of those classes and it was hard to manage
Very hard.
in-person and virtual as well. So we liked the virtual seat option and students like the option to come virtually as well. So now we just have the virtual academy. So you can attend the whole 40-hour course virtually if you so choose. So that was kind of how that grew into what it is now. But
and that's part of like what I am also like super proud about is, and there are some things that I sit back and wonder, like maybe we just didn't give it enough time to see if it would work. But we're not afraid to try something new. Erin has gone along with so many of my crazy ideas. And, we always learn from it. I'm the one that takes it the hardest. I'm like, oh my God, what are people going to think? And she has to like, corral me back into reality. But we learn from it, pivot, make it better for the next time. And with that, we're very thankful that you guys have continued to stick around, even with our shortcomings or challenges that we've had in the past. And I hope you guys have seen the work, the results of the work of like improving every year. But I did bring some testimonials from past students on how Gap Science has impacted them or like what they thought of a course. So this was back in 2020, Erin. So this is like our very first go at teaching. And this is from Tyler from the Forensic FTO course. He says, I can't describe how helpful, informative, and fun this training was. I would take any training classes by Ashley and Erin that my agency would let me take.
Aww.
So it was so nice. I brought a couple more. So 2022, like fast forward a little bit. This is from Danielle Bronson from the Forensic Supervision course. She says, this is by far the best training class I have taken. The information was super helpful, and I can't wait to try and implement these ideas within my own unit. Both of you are super engaging. I have a personality in which I like to sit back and be the quiet one. However, both of you made it to where I felt comfortable participating. And Danielle has continued to stick around as well.
I was just going to say that too. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, I actually like regularly email Danielle. There's a lot of you guys that I like regularly contact, or like you text us, we email back and forth, whatever. And I love that it's become like such a network of friends that, I'm glad that you guys came to the classes so that you could learn and get help with whatever you needed. But I literally shot out an email yesterday. I just needed help with something, and I shot it out to like my network of supervisors in Florida, and most of them were from classes, and I was like, hey friends, can you guys answer this question for me? And they started answering immediately. Like, I got immediate responses, and I just love that. Even some of you guys that are here live, like I feel like we've become friends, it's not even really like instructor student kind of thing. Like, we really have developed relationships with people over the course of these past 5 years, which is so amazing. So Danielle is definitely one of them.
Yeah, for sure. She even just taught, it was the symposium, right? She taught at the symposium.
Yeah, her and Mary. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and of course, we've gotten support in other ways as well. Specifically, Justice Tracks has continued to be a biggest supporter year after year. Not only have they sponsored past virtual summits, but they've also been like a year sponsor. They've come to us, and they're very kind, and they believe in what we're doing. So they have continued to be a sponsor for us, and they are a sponsor right now for this year. And also, we can't forget to shout out our families as well. I know from my perspective, my family has definitely made a lot of sacrifices with a lot of how we used to do things. There was a lot of traveling, so I leaned on my husband to be, his own single dad for a little bit. I've leaned on, my mom, my mother-in-law, and of course it does impact your kids as well. So, and I know, Jason gets lonely at home too while you're gone.
Yeah, he definitely, we're, per the usual, we're knee deep in another project right now.
Very knee deep.
Which we have set a hard deadline for ourselves, which makes us get things done. So at literally every single night I've been working on this project, and he did say something about it like today or whatever, that every night, like, we haven't really been doing anything together because I've been furiously at work on my computer. I'm like, I'm sorry, the deadline's coming. So he's always been very supportive of all of this stuff, all of our travel, all of our conferences, whatever. Like, he's never even really questioned it. Like, he'll look at the calendar. He'll look at the calendar and be like, "You're going to Rhode Island on Friday?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a conference, It's like, okay.
Yeah.
So
I will say, like, both Jason, her husband, and Ben, my husband, like, they're such big cheerleaders online too. Like, they're constantly supporting any like posts or like stuff that we're doing online and engaging with it. And they've been like very supportive of any crazy ideas that we have. So definitely can't, get through this episode without giving them a shout out. Before we get into some more behind the scenes of Gap Science through the past 5 years, I do have some fun little rapid fire questions, especially for those that don't know us too well yet or starting to know us.
Oh my gosh.
I got a whole thing right here.
Oh my gosh.
So we're going to do a little bit of a rapid fire question. I'll pull a couple from the jar. We'll both give our answers, and then, maybe we'll do like a few of these and move on to the behind the scenes. So
I'm so proud of you. You were so prepared for this episode.
Listen, ChatGPT for the win gave me all these fantastic ideas.
Prepared. I love it.
Okay, we're going to pause that right there. That's going to conclude part 1 of our 5-year celebration. We hope you've enjoyed hearing about the journey so far, from the challenges to the triumphs that shaped Gap Science into what it is today. But we are not done yet. In part 2, we're bringing even more fun with audience participation, rapid fire questions, and a look ahead at what's next for Gap Science. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss it, and don't forget to leave us a review or share this episode with your forensic coworkers, friends, or family. We will see you in part 2. Thank you so much for being here and listening to Forensics Unfiltered. If you liked this episode, would you do us a favor and leave a review letting us know specifically what you liked about this topic? It will only take a minute, but it will really help us plan future episodes so we can bring you more topics that you want to listen to. We'll be sure to provide any links from today's episode in our show notes on our website. Head to www.gapscience.com. Until next time, stay safe out there.